Hey folks, I want to share with you something I'm struggling with at the moment. Recently, some very educated, very well trained, some I'm hoping very wise doctors here in Canada have suggested that the federal government change the way it currently distributes the COVID-19 vaccine, regardless of where it comes from. Right now, all the vaccines that come into our country are shared amongst the provinces based on their population. So the most populous provinces get the most vaccine. The least populous provinces get the least amount. It seems to have been working quite well until recently when some hotspots have started popping up, flaring up across the country. And so what these doctors are now suggesting is rather than distributing the vaccine according to population per capita, that instead vaccines are sent to those hotspots to help contain the outbreak that's taking place. I'm not going to judge what's going on in those hotspots because depending on who you listen to, you're going to get a different reason why the pandemic is getting worse in those places, why the disease is getting worse in those places. But I am going to say this. Here in Nova Scotia, most of our population has lived according to the restrictions that have been placed on us by the federal government and by the provincial government without too much protest, without saying much. We've done our part. We've stayed home when we had to stay home. We've limited the number of people around us when we've been asked to limit the number of people around us. We stayed indoors. We went outdoors depending on where they told us to go. We didn't travel from our province to the next. We didn't travel from our town to the next town. We stayed out of Halifax when we were asked to stay out of Halifax, and the folks in Halifax stayed in Halifax when they were asked to stay there. For the most part, I think Nova Scotians have done a pretty fantastic job of sacrificing themselves to help their neighbors, to keep the pandemic from growing out of control here. So when I heard this idea coming from these doctors, my first thought was no, absolutely no stinking way. Do not stop sending the vaccines here. Keep giving us our fair share. We've done everything we were supposed to do. We've done everything that we were asked to do. We deserve this reward. We don't want to keep living in these conditions. We want to get back to normal. We did our part. Give us our shot so that we can go about our life. And as a Christian, I quickly came to the understanding of what it was that I was saying. I don't care what's going on over there. Give me what's mine. Snuck up on me. Did not see it coming. Not something that I ever considered. This was not something that I ever considered. I always thought, hey, I was doing my part. That was a good thing. This is what a Christian would do. And yet, when those doctors said that somebody else, somebody in Southern Ontario or somebody in Alberta or somebody in British Columbia or Quebec, they should get my shot, I don't think so. No way. Gimme my shot. That's not the Christian attitude, is it? That is not the Christian attitude. It's not the Christian attitude I share and profess on this channel. It's not the Christian attitude that I teach in my congregation. Where's my willingness to sacrifice? Where was my willingness to sacrifice for those who need it? You see, the argument could easily be made that, well, the people that are going to get your vaccine don't care anyway. They don't want to live by the restrictions. They're going out to bars and they're going out to parks and they're going out to malls and they're going out shopping. They don't care about these restrictions anymore. They don't want to live by these restrictions anymore, and that's why those hotspots exist. So your shot is going to go to somebody that really doesn't care about their neighbor at all. That doesn't matter, though. It doesn't matter what their motivation is. It doesn't matter what their intention is. It doesn't matter where their heart is. It doesn't matter if they're a good person or a bad person. It doesn't matter if they're living according to the restrictions or not. It doesn't matter who they are or what they do or why they do it. I am to love them as Jesus loved me. So, for me, I think I'll get over it. But if they choose to do this, and it's probably the right direction to go, there are places in our country that are in real desperate shape. Not all of Canada is in that bad a condition, but there are places that are in real desperate shape, and they need this in order to help stem what's going on there. It may cost me. As I mentioned, I just recently lost my other grandmother. I'd love to get home. I'd love to get to New Brunswick and hug my dad and hug my mom. I would love to see my sister and her husband and tell them that I love them. I would love to play with, tease, joke around with, and talk to my nieces and nephews. I would love to see my children play with them. I would love to put my feet in the Miramichi River. And I cannot tell you how much I would love to hold my oldest son, Cam. This is the sacrifice that might be being asked of me. And I'm okay with it. I'm not okay with it. I'll be sad. I'll feel it. But I am willing, if asked, to pay that price. If it means somebody else gets to stay healthy. If somebody else is able to experience a little bit more safety. If somebody else is able to feel a little bit more comfortable. If it means somebody else doesn't die or have to go to hospital. If it means that another family doesn't have to mourn or worry or stress. I'm not okay with it. It's going to hurt. But I'm willing. May the Lord bless you. May the Lord keep you. May the Lord's face be made to shine upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord's countenance be lifted up to you. May you always know the peace of being in the Lord's presence. And I pray that as this pandemic draws to a close, and please, Lord, let us be getting close, that you and I would be willing to make the sacrifices that we're being asked to make the sacrifices that we need to make to help get as many of our friends and our families and our neighbors through to the end of the tunnel. Amen.